All right, you guys, welcome back. I am back here in Minnesota and currently I'm figuring out my setup right now. Of course, I have a new streaming platform that I just started using and I hope that it's good enough. I hope that everything works out. Although I keep seeing that on my page, it keeps sort of lagging. And so if everything is not going good, please just let me know so that I can fix it. Of course, this is a one-man show here. I'm doing this all on my own. And so I want to kind of discuss with y'all a couple of things right now, actually. So the first thing I wanted to discuss with y'all, and this news came up the sort of right when I started, right when I was getting ready to start my stream today. I'm just pulling up the article so that I can quote it in its entirety and accuracy. But I wanted to pull this up here because the cause of death for the beloved Catherine O'Hara has been revealed. So, Catherine O'Hara, who died at 71 on January 30th of this year, died from a pulmonary embolism, and they listed rectal cancer as the underlying cause. Now, this was a death certificate that was obtained by TMZ. This was just released in the past 10 minutes here. So it's very new. It's very fresh, and I'm just kind of getting set up for you guys here. So I apologize if there's any delay in the stream. Sort of I'm pulling up my stream on my phone on the different platforms that I'm on, which is Twitter and X, of course. And so I apologize if there's any delay. As you guys know, I do this stream from my car most of the time. For the past couple of days, the past two streams, I was back in Florida where my parents live. I was visiting them. And so I'm back in my car here in Minnesota. And so all right. The very first thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys is the fact that the Guthrie family is actually going to be paying the ransom for their mother, Nancy. So the ransom amount was reported in the couple of organizations, KGUN and KOLD, both in Tucson as well as TMZ, that the amounts that they are owed or that they're having to pay is $6 million in Bitcoin. So I want to remind you guys, I want you guys to take a look at this video that was released on Saturday by Savannah Guthrie announcing that they are going to be paying the ransom.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our
show actually announced that they will be paying the ransom, which is very, very, that's honestly like insane. Just because this is the 9th day that Nancy Guthrie has been missing. Reminder, she is 84 years old and she has gone missing. She went missing, I believe, last Saturday. Yeah, that would make it 9 days today. Last Saturday on January 31st and February 1st. It was kind of like she came in. Actually, you know what? Let's pull up you guys, can we pull up the timeline? There we go. Here's the timeline for Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. So January 31st, she travels to the local family's home in Tucson, Arizona at 5:32 p.m. At 9:48 p.m., she's dropped off at her home and the garage door opens. And then at 9:50, just 2 minutes later, the garage door closes. Then we fast forward into the early morning hours of February 1st, where at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects, and at 2:12 a.m., the software detects a person on the camera, but no video is made available because they don't have a subscription. So I kind of pushed back on this. I think it's wrong that whether it's Ring or any other company, to not have their own copy of the video, of course, privacy concerns, but also the fact that just because a family doesn't have a subscription to a doorbell does not mean that in the event, the horrific event that they go missing, they can't use that footage. So I don't know how that works. Maybe the footage is just deleted after a certain amount of time because they're not paying for a subscription for the footage to be stored in the cloud. But at the same time, I do think that that's just kind of it's unfortunate and it's unfair that just because they don't have a subscription Doesn't mean that the police and the law enforcement can't access that footage, unless, of course, the footage is actually gone. But in the sense of big tech, I doubt that it is truly. And I pushed back on that in my last episode. I thought that was pretty unfair, actually. Um, and so let's pull that the timeline back up again. So then at 2:28 a.m., the pacemaker app shows the disconnect from the iPhone. And so if you guys don't know, Nancy Guthrie actually has a pacemaker, and she also has life-saving medication. And so if she hasn't taken her medication, and I think it's like every 24 hours, I would assume, you know, she dies, and which is super absolutely awful. And so I pray that the kidnappers or kidnapper had the medication to provide her, because listen, you guys, I think this event is just, if you're kidnapping somebody who the mother of someone who's very, very famous. Savannah Guthrie is very famous. She's very well known, especially in the journalist community, the community that I'm a part of. She's very well known. And so to have her kidnapped, right? I would assume that the kidnapper or kidnappers know that she takes this medicine. I mean, Fox News reported, and a local affiliate was the one that originally reported this, that there was the neighbor noticed a white van sitting outside the Nancy Guthrie's house, multiple days prior to her getting kidnapped. And so I wonder if that was sort of recon, like surveillance, maybe trying to get intel, maybe seeing where her daily activities or her daily schedule looked like. And so that way they could find like the quote unquote prime time to kidnap her. But of course, that's kind of up in the air. That's really unknown right now. And so pulling this back up here, about 9.5 hours after the pacemaker disconnects, the family goes to check in on Nancy. So Nancy is a regular churchgoer. She goes to church a lot. She is a regular at the local church that she goes to, and one of her church friends, her church or fellow churchgoers, noticed that she wasn't there, and that was out of the ordinary to her. And so I believe that she contacted the family saying, "Hey, Nancy's not at church today. Maybe want to check on her." So at 11:56, the family checks on Nancy. Just 7 minutes later, the 911 call to the Pima County Sheriff's Department was called. And then at 12:15, 12 minutes later, the patrol arrives. And so we have that sort of timeline to go off. That was released days ago. I think it was Thursday. I think it was last Thursday. And so we have that to go off of. So we don't know. The family is paying, $6 million in the form of Bitcoin to these kidnappers or kidnapper. And also, there is a deadline today. So in about it's mountain time, so an hour behind me. About 4 hours from now, there is a second deadline, which that one is believed to have threatened Nancy's life. And so they're really up against the clock here. They're trying to see, if they can pay the Bitcoin and then have her returned, and then maybe see if they can capture the kidnappers or kidnapper, see if they can get that money back. So it's just a really unfortunate situation, but I wanted to provide you guys with an update here on exactly what is transpired, what's going on. All right, so let's go ahead and pivot to some news about the Super Bowl halftime show last night. So Bad Bunny, who is a Puerto Rican performer, did the halftime show last night. He recently won Album of the Year at the Grammys for his album, which I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of, and I feel bad. But let's take a look at President Trump's sort of response. And I'll read this to you in its entirety, even though you can see it on the screen here. Quotes, "The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't respect our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. The quote show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and 401ks in history, there is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show. And watch, it will get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't got a clue of what is going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its ridiculous new kickoff rule. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. So, it's an expected response to the Super Bowl halftime show, which was announced months ago. The sort of right wing kind of went off. They were like, "This is unfair," and actually, Turning Point USA, which was founded by the late and great Charlie Kirk, hosted their own halftime show called, I believe it was called the All American Halftime Show, sort of as a diss to the fact that Bad Bunny speaks Spanish, but he is American. Puerto Rico is part of America. It's an American territory, and he was born and raised there. And so, yes, he's American, but he also speaks Spanish. And so they actually did this halftime show. It had Kid Rock with a bunch of other people performing in this halftime show. One of the interesting parts about the halftime show yesterday was this. Look at this. This is super cool. A couple actually got married at the halftime show. So originally, they had invited Bad Bunny to attend their own wedding. And instead, Bad Bunny countered and said, "Why don't you get married at my halftime show?" Which honestly, I think that's super cool. I think that's pretty cool. Like, it's new. I've never seen a couple get married at a Super Bowl halftime show. I'm sure it was a amazing experience for them and something that they will never forget. Of course, here's Bad Bunny performing and doing his whole thing. Um, and then this was a sign that actually got people on the right pretty mad because I think that they thought it was like a diss on Ice, which it may have been. But it says, and this was at the end, the conclusion of his halftime show. It said, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love." So Bad Bunny actually gave his Grammy in as part of the halftime show. He gave his Grammy to what many people said was Liam Ramos, who was taken by ICE. He's a 5-year-old taken by ICE here in Minnesota. It wasn't actually Liam. That has been confirmed. However, it people thought it was more of like a symbol, giving his Grammy to the 5-year-old kid taken by ICE. But it was a younger version of himself, and I don't have that clip with me right now. But you can go and watch that. It's a younger version of himself that he gave the Grammy to, like saying, like, "We're gonna make it. We're gonna be album of the year, like you and me, like let's go," which was honestly pretty inspirational and pretty cool. But a lot of people did not like that halftime show. There was a lot of discourse around it. Of course, Turning Point USA, they had around 3 million viewers on their halftime show, which is quite a lot. It sure will cause discussion within, big sports media and how they can get people to watch their show versus like watching, something like Turning Point's All American halftime show, which was super interesting. I'm going to take a brief break here and get you guys more on what is happening with Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the known accomplice and girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein. She's been imprisoned for quite some time. She's currently in a minimum security prison. I'm going to take a brief break here, and I'll get back to you guys on what exactly she is doing in front of the House Oversight Committee today, where she had her virtual deposition. We will be right back after the break. All right, you guys, we are back from our little break there. I'm starting to do breaks in my show just so I can make sure I have all of my things gathered. And I'm looking at my phone here. I use the Citizen app. I don't know if you guys use that app too. I highly recommend it, especially if you live in an area that you deem unsafe. It's a really, really useful tool. But one of the things that it does is it provides news on, big events around the world, or mainly the US, I would say. One of the things that it just sent me, so if you live in Springfield, Ohio, be careful just because there have been bomb threats issued across the area. Um, and I want to read you guys the tweets or the the statement, I guess, from the city of Springfield, where there have been bomb threats that have closed the schools. Says community notice: residents and visitors are asked to avoid the downtown area near um, near the police department and courts due to safety concerns that are impacting traffic flow. Streets affected include Fountain Avenue, Columbia Street, North Street, and Limestone Street. Motorists are encouraged to plan ahead and use alternate routes when possible. Thank you for your cooperation. So, you guys, if you're in Springfield, Ohio, I know I have viewers from all over the country. So, if you're in Springfield, Ohio, just be safe, be mindful, of course. But I do recommend the Citizen app. It is very, very useful. There are, of course, threats that, information news that it has that comes from all over the country. But there's also local stuff. So let me pull up this for you guys. I want to show you guys kind of the things I've received. So I've received offender registered, like a sexual offender registered 800 feet away from where I was living. Ew, that's gross. Um, Also, you guys, so do you know the rapper Lil Jon? So his son, Nathan Smith, has passed away. He was reported missing a couple of days ago, and he's dead. I'm just viewing this now on my Citizen app. You can see here rapper Lil Jon's statement mourning loss of missing son after body discovered during search. So a couple of days ago, his Lil Jon's son went missing, and uh, this is just awful. I'm praying for their family. Of course, you guys know Lil Jon. Maybe you don't. He was reported missing on February 3rd, so just 6 days ago, a little under a week. And this might be sort of, I guess, old news just because it says 3 days ago. Can you see that? 3 days ago. So it says both Lil Jon and Nicole Smith released a statement announcing the tragic loss of their son Nathan Smith after police located a body in a pond in Atlanta, Georgia. Of course, we're praying for Lil Jon and Nicole Smith, and their whole family. That's just an absolutely tragic loss. And his son was 27 years old, and it's that's so young, and it's just awful. But you guys, this app definitely, I get a lot of my news, not news, but just urgent reports from this app. So when I originally saw that Nancy Guthrie went missing, I actually saw on the Citizen app. This is, of course, non-promoted. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm actually not sponsored by anybody at this moment. Of course, I'd love some sponsors, but not at this moment. And so I'm just showing you guys this app just because to increase your sort of safety and security and your well-being, and of course, so you guys know what's going on in the world around you, because there's a lot of stuff that isn't reported in the mainstream media. But what has been reported in the mainstream media was Ghislaine Maxwell, however you say her name. She is the known accomplice and girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein. And today she spoke in front of the House Oversight Committee, which is doing this investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and everybody associated with him. So, some very interesting stuff came out about this investigation. I don't have any screenshots for you guys, so you're just going to have to listen to me sort of say this. But Ghislaine Maxwell, she's been jailed for 20 years. Um, I don't know when she was jailed, but her sentence is 20 years. For conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to abuse minors, which is just freaking disgusting. Absolutely disgusting, you guys. I Ew. I get the icks. But she actually said, well, she didn't say a lot today in her deposition. She had a virtual deposition. She's being kept at a minimum security prison in Texas. And I think that's weird, right? Like Ghislaine Maxwell, like a literal child sex abuser, is being kept at a minimum security prison. And of course, that came right after she met with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. So, of course, like she's kept in this, I guess, maximum security prison, very high security prison. And then she meets with Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, and then she gets moved. She gets moved to a minimum security prison, I believe, in Texas, which is weird, right? That's weird, you guys. Am I not the only one that thinks that that's, like, weird? That, like, after you speak with the deputy attorney general, you're moved to a minimum security prison where you have therapy dogs and you can get, like, meals, like, whatever meal you want and just, like, all of these things. It's almost like Jeffrey Epstein's sweetheart deal, which happened, I believe, in 2008, maybe? I could be wrong about the year, with Alex Acosta, the DA at the time down in Miami, and he gave him a 3-month sentence where he was allowed to leave the prison for many, many hours at a time, go to work, and then come back. He had a TV in his room. It was specially treated. It's like, how are you so specially treated, in a prison for trafficking minors? That's what Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of back in, I believe, 2008. That was the quote unquote sweetheart deal. And so we're looking at this sort of, testimony, this deposition to the House Oversight Committee, which is conducting a probe, an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein as a whole, and just all of his actions, his disgusting actions. So she pleaded the fifth to basically like all of their questions. And the House Oversight Committee chair, James Comer, who is a Republican, said that it was very disappointing in that lawmakers had many questions to ask about the crime she and Jeffrey Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspiracy. I don't know what that co-conspiracy is in reference to, maybe with other individuals, other high-profile individuals. We don't really know, and that's weird. I think that's weird. One of the things that was super, super interesting from this was that she said that if the president were to grant her clemency, so if President Donald Trump were to grant her clemency, some like lenience and whatnot on her conviction, she would clear his name of any wrongdoing as it pertains to Epstein. Now, I want to be very, very clear here. Donald Trump has not been convicted of any wrongdoing. He's not been taken to court over any wrongdoing in the case of Jeffrey Epstein. So there's no wrongdoing that's been convicted in the case of Jeffrey Epstein as it pertains to Donald Trump. But the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is saying that she would clear his name of any wrongdoing insinuates, it's indicative of the fact that Donald Trump may have had some sort of wrongdoing when it involves Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, he's not been convicted, as I just stated, but there's I don't know, is there something there? Is there something that DOJ or a federal court has to investigate? Because that statement alone is very weird, right? If the president has not been convicted of any wrongdoing, is there any wrongdoing that he's done that's not been convicted? It's just very, very weird. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with this Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Now, let's move over to England, to Great Britain. The police in Britain, British police, are assessing a report that former Prince Andrew, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, and I apologize. Well, not really. But Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he allegedly, and I'm going to state this, allegedly, shared confidential reports with Epstein during the former prince's role as UK trade envoy. He's repeatedly, of course, denied any wrongdoing over his ties to Epstein and has not publicly responded to the latest allegations. So I'm going to open this report on my page here. King Charles, okay, the current king of Great Britain, of England, says he's ready to support police as they assess claim that former Prince Andrew shared confidential material with Epstein. I'm trying to look here as what is this confidential material that he's apparently shared, allegedly shared. I'm trying to look into. Um, I'm reading on my laptop right now as I'm doing this live show. Um, I'm not seeing exactly what it is, but we do know that former Prince Andrew became trade envoy in 2001, but stepped down and this is a quote from CNN, stepped down a decade later after coming under fire over his association with Epstein. The former prince said at the time his position was, quote, no longer necessary to the work that I do today, and more importantly, in the future. Let's read more from the CNN article. Quote, in October 2010, Epstein emailed the royal. I'm not sure what the royal is indicating there, asking for more details about an upcoming trip to Asia, according to DOJ files. In response, former Prince Andrew sent Epstein a brief itinerary setting out his travel plans for various destinations, including Vietnam, Singapore, and Hong Kong. After the trip concluded, former Prince Andrew forwarded, quote, visit reports, unquote, to Epstein, initially sent to the former prince by his then special advisor, Amit Patel. The overseas visit is listed in a financial report published by the royal family. So there's a lot of weird things going on here, you guys, with this Jeffrey Epstein investigation and the files that have been released. Of course, I, as an independent journalist, I don't know. I guess it's very hard because sometimes I don't know what to believe, and then sometimes I know what to believe. And with these Epstein thing, it's like I don't know who to believe. I don't know who Epstein had ties to and who they can influence the media. And so it's just very, very difficult to kind of gather these sort of um, you know, accurate information from. But it's very, very interesting that the former Prince Andrew allegedly shared confidential material with Jeffrey Epstein. And then we know, of course, the claims. I think it was Virginia Giuffre, the late Virginia Giuffre. She committed suicide earlier in 2025, who alleged that she was a victim of Epstein and alleged that Prince Andrew had something to do with it. I mean, it's just there's a lot of stuff going on here, and it's very, very weird and gross. And I'm honestly disgusted by just like the sort of, I don't know, the incompetency of organizations to go after Jeffrey Epstein. It's like, you know, there's been FBI reports, dating back to, I don't even know, 2002 to 2004 or 5, saying like Jeffrey Epstein has been doing this and that and that. And it's like, did they do anything? No, they didn't. And it's like, why? Are they incompetent? I don't believe that the FBI is incompetent. I believe they're very competent. So what was the miscommunication there? And so there's a lot of just like information that's very confusing to me. And as I further read these Epstein files, of course, I am reading. Hold on, you guys. One second here. I have some breaking news. Maryland High School in the Washington, D.C. area is on lockdown after shooting leaves one person injured. Officials in Maryland announced Monday afternoon that a shooting occurred inside a high school with one person confirmed to have been shot. The Montgomery County Department of Police said Thomas S. Wooten High School remains under lockdown as additional officers gather at the scene. All right, you guys, we have some breaking news coming out of Washington, D.C., where a high school has been shot, or a high school is under lockdown after a person was shot, I believe, inside the high school. Um, all the roads leading to the school have been closed at this time. Parents are advised to go to nearby campus at Robert Frost Middle School, located at 9201 Scott Drive. That has been designated as the meeting location. We will be monitoring this shooting here, you guys. This is breaking news coming in live here. As you can see on my screen, Maryland High School locked down after shooting leads to one person injured. All right, you guys, we will be monitoring this. Please stay tuned. This is breaking news right now coming to me as I'm streaming. So of course, make sure to stay tuned. Whew, today has been a day. Today has been a day, you guys. I'm grateful for you all. I'm grateful for this platform that I have and the ability to stream. I enjoy doing this, and I've just found, of course, a new streaming, I guess, sort of platform, software that I can use. As you guys know, I'm a one-man show. I'm doing this all on my own, but I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. So please stay tuned. I'm gonna figure out how to finish this live stream here. But I will keep you guys updated on any new developments we have, of course, from that shooting in DC at the DC High School and any other new developments. So please stay tuned. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow.